I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out.
You want Philly?
Chase Utley, you are the man.
You come out backyard and you try to start something, you always get your butt kicked.
The prayers have been answered.
How about those Eagles, baby?
And Rio Muto can run for days.
Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
A perfect game. Roy Halladay has thrown the second perfect game in Philadelphia Phillies history.
Let's just get straight into it. I got so much to say after yesterday's game, but first off, of course, gotta talk about the NFL, gotta talk about the Phillies. So, starting off with the rest of the NFL, Bills, Dolphins, Thursday night. Bills pretty much blow out the Dolphins, and Tua, man, please. Tua, just please retire. This man's talking about, oh, I have no intention, blah, 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 bro. Please retire before you turn your brain to mush at this point. Like, I don't know how nobody is in this man's ears telling. I mean, you know, there obviously are probably people telling him, but it's like the fact that he's convinced that he can still go. It's like, dude, 4 straight years of this. Just, you've made your money. Just please retire, man. It's absolutely sad what's happened to Tua, and it's just like, someone just please advise him the best. Ravens starting out 0-2. They lose to the Raiders. They're starting out 0-2. They were talking about it on the broadcast during the Eagles game, talking about, you know, they fall to 0-3, it could be really difficult for them to sort of make that climb back up. But also at the same time, I don't know how difficult of a climb can it be in the AFC North. That's not to say that the AFC North isn't a strong division. You know, it's always one of the stronger divisions where, yeah, their records might not look great at times, but they really fight, you know, especially one another. They fight for that top spot. But I don't think Baltimore really has to worry. The only thing they probably have to worry about is the Bengals getting hot. But then again, the Bengals are also 0-2 to start their season. So I don't know. But it is a bit odd to see the Ravens start 0-2. The Chargers are really looking good with Jim Harbaugh. Again, it was the Panthers, 26-3, beating the Panthers. But, you know, they're looking a lot better. Their run game's looking real strong. J.K. Dobbins has been amazing for them. Quentin Johnston, 2 touchdowns on the day. Much better improvement than what his rookie season looked like. New Orleans blowing out Dallas 44-19. This is already making me regret the take I had during my season preview where I was like, oh, I'm not too worried about New Orleans outside of Olave. And that's because I was too busy thinking about, you know, last season. I totally forget they got a new coordinator. And look at what this coordinator's done. They scored, 91 points in the first 2 games. You got Derek Carr out here looking crazy. You got Alvin Kamara, who I have on my fantasy team, turning back the clock, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 65 yards and a touchdown in the catching game. Or the receiving game, sorry. 44 points for me on the day. Absolutely insane. Definitely a lot worried for this upcoming game with them. Tampa squeezing out a victory against Detroit. Like I said, Baker Mayfield's been looking good. Detroit, Jared Goff had 2 interceptions in this game despite having 307 yards. Any other interesting? Minnesota beat San Francisco. Minnesota starts out 2-0. Sam Darnold looking like, you know, pretty good. You know, he's looking pretty good in this Minnesota offense. Justin Jefferson proving to be quarterback proof, going off for 133 yards and a touchdown. Looking pretty good, and a lot of these quarterbacks are proving that maybe it's just the coaching, you know, because I mean, you got Sam Darnold doing better. You got Baker basically rejuvenating his career out there in Tampa. There was someone else. I'm trying to think who. There was another name, and now I'm blanking on it. But, you know, Derek Carr in New Orleans looking a lot better than he did last season, you know. And then meanwhile, you have the Panthers who are like, we're going to bench Bryce Young for Andy Dalton because that's surely going to help out the team. That's surely going to be an improvement. If you ask me as a football fan, I want Tua to just retire and for the Dolphins to trade for Bryce Young. A lot of people have been saying that too. I mean, just someone get him out of Carolina. It's crazy to say that about a second-year player, but it's like Carolina just doesn't know what they're doing. And the fact that they think benching him for Andy Dalton is the solution, baffling. And then, I mean, that's pretty much all I really want to talk about. I know the Chiefs beat the Bengals, and I didn't get to see highlights, but I heard there was some calls that may have gone one way or the other. Can't say for sure since I wasn't able to watch it, but that's what I was hearing out of that game. But before we get to, of course, the main sort of attraction of this video, let's talk about the Phillies real quick. Last we talked about them. They were heading into that Tampa series. They swept the Rays, won the series against the Mets 2-1. They had a walk-off in the last game from JT. That was real good. They've been doing pretty good. They lost yesterday. Not really what you want to see. But they got 2 more games against Milwaukee. You hope they can win these next 2 just like the Mets win, And then after that, they got the Mets again for 4 games, this time in New York. This is, we're in the dog days, basically. Like, we're like in that final stretch where like we just really, really got to do good. And I think they will, I think probably the next time we talk next Tuesday for another Philly talk, we'll have hopefully have clinched the division by then. And then all that comes down to is, are we getting the first seed, the second seed? What's going to happen, A lot of people want the second seed. Some people want the first seed just because of the whole matchups. I haven't really looked into it, so I don't know for sure, but I'm just hoping for a lot good out of them. Got a lot of our guys come back, like JT's back, Schwarber's, was fine after that little scare. Bohm was back in the lineup. So hoping everything looks pretty well for this team. I really want our pitching to get back on it. Ranger hasn't been the best. Nola did not look great in that Mets game. As you heard me mention it a lot last season, Nola was looking good until he hit that patented Nola wall. 4 innings, he was looking great in that Mets game, and then he enters the 5th and lets up 2 separate 3-run home runs, I believe was what it was. I know he ended up like with 6 earned runs on the day. Just not the best outing. And again, he hit that wall, and whenever he hits that wall, the biggest issue is he doesn't know how to get past it. And so he just struggles, and then they just have to take him out because he just can't get past it and finish the inning at times when he hits that wall. So it's very frustrating to watch. So I just want the pitching to get back on it. But the bullpen's been really great. They've shaped up really well. Sadly, Alvarado yesterday finally let up earned runs after having a pretty good streak of as how we mentioned in the last one, not allowing any runs. I mean, even since when was that video last week? The 10th. Well, he only had one. This was his second appearance since that video. Dang. Finally let up some earned runs. Maybe that's why, because it was such a long gap of breaks, because I mean, you look at before, it was like he was kind of pitching maybe every other day. He pitched back to back in that Rays series, and then it's like he was off for 5 days of rest basically, and came in, let up 2 earned runs. So not the best, but still, he's shaping himself back into things. All the others looking pretty good. Really gonna be interested to see how this team shapes up. And then I mean, you got all these bench guys just filling in whenever they need them to. You got Buddy Kennedy and what's the other one? Cal Stevenson, I believe it is, the one that was playing center field, made that crazy catch. And then did he hit a double? I can't remember if it was a double or I think it was a double that he hit. I don't think it was a home run. I think it was a double. And then he made that amazing catch afterwards to rob the home run. it's like I was talking to my dad. I'm like, it's like these guys are just making it super hard for this team to decide what the playoff roster looks like. I'm hoping that they're only going to go with 4 guys, you know, and that Taiwan isn't on that playoff roster to open an extra spot, and that they can use that extra spot for the bench. You know, I know they typically like to have more bullpen, especially come playoff time, since you're not really allowing your starters to go too far in the playoffs. But, you know, I welcome a lot of bench bats, you know, who can fill in at any point if some guys are struggling, you know, because, I mean, that was our biggest issue last postseason. When guys were going cold, who did we realistically have to sub in for them, you know? I mean, this season, now we know it's kind of like if Stott is struggling, you can sub it. If Stott, Trey, or Bohm are somewhat like going cold and all that, you know, you have Sosa there that you can sub in. You have Cody Clemens who you can sub in. You have Weston Wilson who you can have sub in. In the outfield, you have your pick of the litter, basically. You have, you know, Kyle Stevenson, who's been doing pretty good lately. You got Johan Rojas for the defense if you need him be. You obviously got Brandon Marsh and Austin Hayes when he comes back. You got, I feel like I'm forgetting one more. I mean, Buddy Kenny's been doing pretty good, but that's more of an infielder. I'm blanking on, there's another guy that they have in the outfield right now, and I'm trying to remember. Can't remember, but they've been doing pretty good for themselves with these various guys. It's like they could have a pretty unique bench heading into the playoffs. So I'm pretty excited for all that. But let's get into the thick of it. We are obviously talking about the Eagles versus Falcons on Monday Night Football. I predicted a win because it's primetime Kirk Cousins. What does primetime Kirk Cousins know about winning in primetime? But so we get to this game, and, you know, I don't know why I really kind of expected a high-scoring game in my mind. Or not necessarily high-scoring, but, you know, I expected a lot different. And then I started to think, and I'm like, well, then again, anytime these two teams have played each other, it's, what is it? Like, it's usually kind of like this low-scoring affair that's very confusing at times when you look at it. But, you know, getting into it, I had to, you know, catch myself up on the previous couple of quarters because I was out trying to get my phone fixed, but I came back enough to catch like the final like half of the game. So what I had heard was that there was a weird like they were trying to spike the ball and it like was a delay of game. I didn't get a chance to see that, but that sounds pretty confusing. What's it called? Man, I'm blanking. I mean, it was mainly field goals for the most part. We had a touchdown from Devontae Smith. It was mainly field goals back and forth. Then we got a touchdown. And then that final quarter, we started off with the ball basically in that new quarter. We ran that clock down for almost, I want to say it was like 10 minutes, 9.5 minutes, something like that. You know, and they showed like the time of possession. They, I think it was since the half. It was like the Falcons had like almost 9.5 minutes and we had nearly 20 minutes of time of possession. So you're thinking, man, you know, they're going to win this because, I mean, who knows better than to run the clock down than the Eagles? And of course you get, you know, these guys driving down and down. You know, they got the touchdown on the quarterback sneak. I remember because, you know, we thought Saquon got in, didn't. You know, he was down at the 1 because his knee was down. So Jalen Hurts gets in there, and then they do a 2-point conversion. Saquon Barkley gets it in. That was another play they had to review. So then the ball's back with the Falcons. The Falcons have, I think it was like 6 minutes left. We get them to a 4th and 1. They run it up the middle of Bijan Robinson, and who's there? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to lay in the boom. Stop BJ at the 1. Not at the 1, but, you know, it's 4th and 1. They stop him there. Doesn't allow him to score. Defense is all hyped. We're getting the ball back with about 5 minutes, I want to say. I forget how much time exactly was left, but you're thinking, oh, this is game over. You know, we know this Eagles team, they're really good at at running that clock down. They're really good at making sure that they hold on to that ball for as long as possible. We got it down to the 2-minute warning, and we were going to we were going to do the brotherly shove, and one of the Falcons players intentionally goes off sides to try and get us to accept the penalty, and thus not have them burn a timeout, but we decline it, so we still go ahead with it. They have to burn timeouts. We get to a 3rd and 3 situation in the red zone. It's like I think it was 3rd and 3 or 3rd and goal, I forget. No, I think it was 3rd and 3. And instead of running the ball with Saquon Barkley, we decide to do a pass to him, and he drops the pass, have to settle for a field goal, which, it's kind of weird. Early in the game, Sirianni went for it, on a 4th down, and then here in the late game, he wants to be conservative. Usually you would think it's flipped, be conservative in the early game, try and be aggressive here in the late game. So that was pretty bad. You have Saquon Barkley, run the ball from him. It's only 3rd and 3. And if Saquon doesn't even get the 3, you have the shove in your playbook to get that final yard. And even if you don't get it, you kill the clock enough that they're backed up into their end zone while you are able to, be there to hold them in a sense, But they decide to settle. We kick the ball back to them. There's like less than a minute 30, I want to say. And this defense, I'm kind of frustrated with the secondary a bit because they let up some easy passes. But I'm more frustrated with that defensive line. They didn't show any sort of fight. Through 2 games now, we've seen this defensive line be like invisible, basically. Like, it's almost like they're non-existent in the pass rush. Like, I don't know what is going on here. It's like Josh Sweat isn't doing anything, Bryce Huff isn't doing anything, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis aren't doing anything, Nolan Smith is not doing anything. It's like this defensive line is very frustrating to watch. I know Milton Williams had a sack on the day, but that was it. 1 sack. Only 2 quarterback hits on the day. Only 3 tackles for losses. This defense was pretty bad. Like, they're not the defense as a whole, really. Again, there was some pretty bad misplays, like Quinyon Mitchell letting up that easy pass and then being terrible at tackling the guy. But that defensive line, it's like they got no pressure at all. It's Kirk Cousins with less than a minute left. You have to get pressure on him because this is almost like where he thrives. Yes, it's Monday Night Football, it's prime time, but when they literally showed the stat that he has a lot of game-winning drives. It's like this is where he thrives at times, and so it's like you got to get that pressure. You got to get in his face and create that pressure, and they just couldn't do anything, and so they let up that field goal. And then you almost get a second chance when Drake London gets penalized for celebrating, so that it moves it back further to point after. They still get it though, but hey, look, 34 seconds on the clock. The Eagles got this. They have 2 touchdowns, I think, or 2 touchdowns. What am I saying? Sorry, 2 timeouts. They can do this too. The Eagles have shown that they can do it, and plus they got 2 timeouts. They're starting, I forget at what yard line. They could easily do this, and they start actually driving. They get to about, I want to say the 46, 44. I don't know what yard line, but they're right before the midpoint of the field, and they literally make a note of this. You have Jake Elliott. All he needs is for you to get him to about the 45-yard line, where his longest attempt was I know it's 61, but he can nail those 50-yarders. All you need is 15 yards. You have a touchdown. There's still 25 seconds left on the clock. All you need to do is go sideline and save that timeout for as much as you can. Just keep going sidelines, even if the defense is gonna predict it. You have guys coming out, I think it was Saquon, that was coming out the backfield, for a little check down. All you have to do is just get 15 yards, and yes, that is difficult, but you have a touchdown. You have the pieces, even though AJ Brown, is going to be out for a couple weeks. You have Devontae Smith, you have Saquon Barkley, you have Dallas Goedert. All you need is 15 yards, and Jalen Hurts trying to play hero ball, tries to make a play down the field, doesn't have the best arm, and so it's short for Devontae Smith, and it's picked off to end the game. Absolutely baffling. It's Jake Elliott that you have there. I wouldn't be upset if we lost this game off a missed field goal. I'm upset that we lost this game the way that we did, because it's like, why put it up to that? You know, why did you put it up to the chance? You know, I'm just so frustrated with this loss, because it's like they just made so many dumb decisions that didn't need to be made. You know, you didn't have to throw to Saquon Barkley on a 3rd and 3 when you're trying to kill clock. You didn't have to throw here, at least the designed play that you did, when you could have easily thrown sidelines. My biggest frustration with this game is AJ Brown is out, which you know means Devontae Smith's going to be the number 1 priority for the defense now. But they still get the ball to him. But it's like, AJ Brown is here. That opens the offense for other guys such as Dallas Goedert. If you're going to throw on 3rd and 3, guess who makes that catch? Dallas Goedert. If you're trying to get to the sidelines even if you don't get to the sidelines, you need someone who's going to maintain possession of that ball. Dallas Goedert, and yet they used him he only had 3 catches on the day. What are you doing with this offense? 3 catches, only 4 targets. Britton Covey had more targets than Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert had more yards on less catches than Britton Covey. Covey had 6 catches for 23 yards, while Goedert had 3 for 38, with the longest being 16 yards. Why are you not getting the ball to him more? Especially in a game where you know you don't have AJ Brown, so you're going to need that safety net a lot more. Why are you not throwing to him more? Why are you not throwing to him more in those final 30 seconds of the game? It is baffling that Jalen threw that last ball. I put this loss the most on that defensive line and on Jalen Hurts, because what is going through your mind to make that throw, and why is there no pressure coming from that defensive line? I literally said the moment that drive finished, I told my dad, this team's going to need to trade for some type of defensive line help. But again, how much is one guy going to help when it's the whole line that's not producing, you know? Honestly, if this is how it's going to be, maybe we should have just paid Hassan Reddick and let someone like Josh Sweat walk, you know, or not sign Bryce Huff. I know Reddick was asking for a lot of money, but it's like, after seeing what this defensive line has been doing these past 2 games, I know it's so early in the season, it's only 2 games, but you got to remember, this is a 17-game season. Every game matters. Every win and loss matters and affects the outcome at the end of this season. So it is absolutely frustrating to see them lose this game in this fashion. The fact that they couldn't get a single stop, the fact that it seemed like that defense was gassed, thinking that when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson made that stop, they were probably thinking in their head, that's the last time we're going to have to touch this field, because this offense is going to go and kill that clock. The fact that you throw on 3rd and 3 instead of running the ball with Saquon Barkley, the fact that you make that throw, yes, I get it, it's Devontae Smith, but the fact that you're designing that play and you're expecting Jalen Hurts to get the ball downfield like that, I wouldn't mind if he tried to make a play with his legs, you know, even if it was just a short amount of yards and he gets out of bounds, you know. It's the fact that he tries to make that play, knowing that you have Jake Elliott in your back pocket, knowing that all he needed was 15 yards, which is just a couple of sideline throws, and you still had a timeout. You still had 1 timeout. So even if you were going for something over the middle, it could have been at least something that, you know, gets you a good amount of yards that you can call that timeout and still maybe run a play to the sidelines. An absolutely frustrating loss. Like, seriously, it's one of the most frustrating I've seen. Not as frustrating, obviously, as some of the losses last year, but like, when you're looking at this team, it's like, it's frustrating to see them take this loss when you know they could have done a lot better. They could have made improvements in some areas of play calling. Just an absolutely frustrating thing, especially because they were playing so well in the quarters before then. Sure, it wasn't the greatest. Sure, you expect them to do a lot better, but this Atlanta team is pretty good. And yet, you know, it just came down to those final couple mistakes in literally the last minutes of the game. Very frustrating loss. Very frustrating. Just hope they can pick themselves back up. But they got quite the challenge. Like I said, I'm already regretting my prediction of it. You got quite the challenge with the Saints, who, like I said, they've put up 91 in the first 2 games, and now they're going to play this defense that can't get pressure, this defense that is eventually going to be gassed, because all our corners and safeties are going to be so, gassed from having to, keep up with the receivers because their defensive line can't get any pressure, I don't know what the heck that Saints offense is going to do to our defense, and all you can hope is that our offense can keep up with them. It's going to be a tough one, and it's going to be tough if you end up starting 1-2 because that puts yourself in an even bigger deficit to climb out of. But overall, just, expecting a lot better and much smarter plays than what we saw in the last couple of minutes of this game.